I'm going to do it, Mom.
The little bing, 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 bum, bum.
In America these days, politics feels more like a reality show. Many people running for nominations from both parties say ridiculous or thoughtless things, yet they still move up the political ladder without much trouble. In fact, being controversial or saying unintelligent things isn't a barrier to political success anymore. Instead, controversy often makes candidates even more popular because the media jumps on the story and gives them more attention.
They actively protect their political friends. While the rest of the world on Monday was paying attention to the Durham report, an IRS whistleblower.
We, as voters, have made some mistakes along the way. During elections, we often don't pay close attention to things like policy, plans, or complex questions, such as whether a candidate will actually be competent or capable of doing the job if elected. Instead, many of us just follow trends. Hardcore conservatives automatically support Republicans, and liberals do the same for Democrats. Each side sees the other almost like an enemy. Because of this, people tend to support only those candidates whose views already match the beliefs they've developed from the environment they grew up in. In many other countries, things aren't like that. Even when there are strong party loyalists, their numbers are usually much smaller as a percentage of the total population compared to the United States. Believe me when I say this. I've traveled to countries all around the world, and I'm speaking from experience, not just from surveys or small studies. When we choose our leaders, we need to pay attention to their career background, whether they've actually been capable, achieved what they set out to do, and even exceeded expectations. We also need to look at their moral values, history, and reputation. People with high confidence often attract attention and can easily climb the political ladder, but confidence alone isn't enough. We should focus more on a candidate's ability to get things done, achieve real results, and maintain strong moral character long before they ever run for office. Unfortunately, we often get fooled by confident public personas, listening to what they say on stage without knowing who they really are behind closed doors. This is one of the main reasons why overly confident candidates make big promises and then fail miserably once they're elected. Another major factor is the predispositions people already have before the campaign even begins. Even if a candidate from the opposing party seems capable, intelligent, and moral, many voters won't care. Their minds are already made up. But we have to remember, we live in the United States of America, not the Republican states of America or the Democratic states of America. Casting a vote is a serious decision. When we vote, we should think about how that choice will affect the economy, national security, and even global stability. If we're considering re-electing a current president, we should carefully look at his record, weighing his achievements against the negative events he has caused.
White nationalists storming the University of Virginia, protesting plans to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee.
These days, many people vote based on how closely a candidate's personality or moral values seem to resonate with their own. On the surface, that might sound reasonable. But it's also dangerous. Politicians can easily exploit that by saying exactly what voters want to hear, pretending to share their values just to gain their support. Remember, these candidates have entire teams of experts working behind the scenes to shape public opinion and influence election outcomes. Another problem is our lack of political knowledge. We like to say we live in the most democratic country in the world, with the freedom to discuss politics openly. But when election season comes around, most of us end up supporting the candidates who simply stir our emotions or say things that resonate with us. When another candidate tries to talk about complex policies or deeper issues, we quickly lose interest. Unfortunately, that's because many Americans have the reading and comprehension level of a fifth grader. And honestly, that's largely our own fault. To fix these problems, voters need to start thinking differently. Step into the voting booth, take a moment to count all the truly admirable qualities a candidate has. Ask yourself, were they competent in what they did before running for office? If they're already in power, look carefully at their performance while in office and cast your vote based on their record, not their party. But in reality, that's easier said than done, because one major obstacle stands in the way: the media. Back in the 1960s, presidential debates were far more civil. The questions were straightforward, and the candidates treated each other with respect. Everything felt more normal then, because the media wasn't as polarized as it is today. Now, even in a country that prides itself on democracy and freedom, much of the news we consume is filled with bias and propaganda. Modern journalism often feels less like professional reporting and more like scripted storytelling that aligns with the network's political agenda. I'm not saying news outlets can't have opinions, but the problem is that today's media leans too heavily in one direction, making it nearly impossible for voters to get a fair and balanced view. Another problem is that because of all this biased news coverage, many people have become completely stressed out by politics, especially during election season. Whether it's at lunch, at work, or with friends, they'd rather talk about everyday life than discuss whether a candidate would actually be able to run the country effectively, improve the economy, or create jobs. As a result, meaningful political conversations, the kind that could help us choose better leaders, are disappearing. People are simply too drained and frustrated by the constant flood of biased media coverage. Another issue is how the media focuses so much on trends, especially on who's leading in the polls. But polls don't necessarily paint an accurate picture of reality. Their results depend heavily on factors like who sponsored them, how the polling was conducted, and where it took place. And no single poll can truly capture what's going on in the minds of more than 100 million American voters. So, none of them ever come close to the full truth. Instead of obsessing over poll numbers, social media trends, or controversial clickbait stories, we should start focusing on the things that actually matter. The policies, the leadership qualities, and the real issues that affect our lives. A candidate's personality and moral values matter a great deal. Take the Watergate scandal, for example. During the 1972 election, President Nixon authorized a break-in at the Democratic Party's campaign headquarters. He even had to appear on television, insisting, "I am not a crook." Another example is President James Buchanan, who spent his entire career in public office before becoming president. During his term, Congress passed a law allowing slavery in Kansas and Nebraska, a decision that contributed to the formation of the Republican Party. Buchanan also supported the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision, which stated that Congress had no power to restrict slavery in U.S. territories. Many historians argue that his failures and inaction helped set the stage for the Civil War.